We finally found one of these so-called dead voters from the 2020 election. Turns out it was a Republican voting under the name of his deceased wife. This has been one of the stories. This is one of the stories we've been told now for a very long time, but it really scaled up with the November of 2020 election. Dead people are voting. Now, not literally dead people. People who are dead are showing up as having voted. And this is clearly some kind of major fraud being perpetrated. It's part of the theft of the election by Joe Biden from Donald Trump. Now, before even analyzing and before telling you about the story and before analyzing the broader data around dead people voting, it should be mentioned that even if their claims were true of widespread dead people voting, they would also have to show and prove that it's happening in a way that helped Joe Biden and hurt Donald Trump. You could have 10,000 so-called dead people voting, but if it was 5,000 dead people voting for Trump and 5,000 dead people voting for Biden, it doesn't actually make a difference in the election. So absent from many of these discussions is, okay, part one is it true? But part two, if true, is it happening in a partisan way where it would actually help one candidate rather than the other? The answer to all of the above is it's not actually happening. And we're going to get to that in a second. But as is often the case with these stories, the side shouting about the supposed fraud, in this case, dead people voting, is the only side that's getting caught doing it. This is a story out of Nevada. We previously mentioned this to you in a list of examples of Republicans doing this. He has now been sentenced. Nevada man who voted twice using dead wife's ballot, sentenced to probation and fined $2,000. This is Donald Kirk Hartle, who has accepted a plea deal to avoid jail time. A judge on Tuesday sentenced the Las Vegas man to probation on a charge he voted twice in the 2020 election by mailing in his deceased wife's ballot. The I-Team was first to report that Kirk Hartle, 55 years old, was facing two charges relating to last year's election. In court Tuesday, Hartle pleaded guilty to one charge of voting more than once in the same election. He appeared virtually in court. He was also fined $2,000 as part of the plea agreement. The original Category D felony carried a maximum prison sentence of 4 years, gets probation and $2,000. Ultimately, to me, this seems like a cheap political stunt that backfired and shows our voting system actually works because you were ultimately caught. That's what the judge in the case said. Rosemary Hartle died in 2017 at age 52 from breast cancer. Kirk Hartle is a surviving husband. A ballot for Rosemary was issued in October and was received by the county, but Kirk said the ballot never came to his house. The I-Team found that even though Rosemary died in 2017, her name appeared on the active voter list. Kirk Hartle says, "I would like to say I accept full responsibility for my actions and regret them, and I'm thankful for your consideration." So we finally found the dead people voting, and it was a Republican. Now, this is an opportunity to remind you. First of all, there are people writing to me saying the punishment should have been far stricter, should have been much, much stricter punishment here for this guy. Okay, that's something that can be talked about. We have data. There have been very good investigations done into so-called dead people voting. And it turns out that it's really easy and popular to say 10,000 people, 20,000, 30,000 suspected dead voters. The BBC actually investigated this. There was an initial claim from Republicans that, for example, in Michigan, 10,000 dead people voted. They had this list of 10,000 people that were dead. The BBC did something very interesting. They said, okay, from the 10,000, let's pick a random 30. Let's just take 30 names at random. And they started going through the 30 names. In fact, they did 31 names. Out of the 31, they spoke to 11 of the people and were able to confirm they're still alive. So random group of 31 supposedly dead voters, 11 are just straight up still alive. They found another 17. They weren't able to speak to them, but there was no record of their death. There was no obituary. There was no record anywhere that said these people have died. And were able to find, although they didn't speak to them, evidence that they were alive, either records or other interactions with the public or government system. So that got them to 28. And then they found 3 people who were dead. They were dead at the time that they checked. When they looked into it, the 3 people were, 2 of the 3 were alive at the time that they voted, meaning they didn't do anything wrong. Okay, you could say, well, 2 of the people died since sending their ballot, shouldn't be counted. You could look at that. And then one, the last one, was an error where a junior's vote was counted as the senior. Imagine, David Pakman Jr., although Jews don't do the junior thing. Imagine David Pakman Sr. is dead. David Pakman Jr. is alive and votes, and the vote is counted wrongly as if it was David Pakman Sr. Still only one vote, right? It was counted as the wrong person, but it's still only one vote. That's what was found when BBC actually investigated this. So don't fall for the fact that it's happening when it's not. And more importantly, even if they were able to prove that it's happening, they would also have to prove that it's happening in a partisan way such that it would actually help one candidate defeat another in even a single state, which they've not recognized. One of our sponsors is Kamikoto, making elegant, high-end, beautiful Japanese steel kitchen knives using traditional techniques from Honshu, Japan. I've been a big fan of Japanese kitchen knives for a long time. They have some great advantages. When you look closely at a Kamikoto knife, you see the quality of the ironwork. They only use Japanese steel. Every knife comes in a perfect heavy-duty ash wood box, makes storage really easy. It looks great in your kitchen or drawer. The balance of the knives is just amazing. I've been using them for everything. Every knife comes with a lifetime guarantee. On their website, you can see the complete list of chefs at Michelin star restaurants who use Kamikoto. And through this partnership they're doing with us, Kamikoto is giving you $50 off on top of their other special offers. Just go to kamikoto.com/Pakman and use the code Pakman for $50 off. The link is down below.